Alice Stewart Show is on the air and on your radio right now. Here's more from Alice on 96.5 The Voice.
Welcome back to the Alice Stewart Show, 7:33. We've been talking about the Hillary Papers. These are newly uncovered documents by the Washington Free Beacon, and it's entitled Archive of Closest Friend of Hillary Clinton, paints a portrait of, as they call, a, quote, ruthless First Lady. And here to join me in the conversation, I'm joined with someone who is very familiar with Hillary Clinton. Jehmu Greene is a Democratic strategist. She is a former advisor for Hillary 2008. Jehmu joins us via the Royal Overhead Door Hotline. Jehmu, good morning.
Good morning, Alice. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you joining us. And what these papers are, these are papers that were uncovered by a journalist at the Washington Free Beacon. They've been locked up, I guess you could say, up in Fayetteville for quite some time. And these are documents of conversations that were had between Diane Blair and Hillary Clinton. And just to set this up, the memo is previously unpublished documents contained in the archive of Diane Blair. And the conclusion of all of these documents, according to pollsters back in 92, was that what voters find slick in Bill Clinton, they find ruthless in Hillary. And just want to talk, before we get into the details of this, what do you think this says about Hillary Clinton, that in terms of Hillary Clinton being a ruthless person as when she was First Lady?
Well, Alice, I do think that we are better than this. When you think about not just Hillary, but any woman running for office, any woman in a leadership position, being called words like ruthless or bossy. There was this Pantene commercial that went viral a couple of months ago where they showed the different words that men are referred to versus women. So a man is boss and a woman is bossy. A man is persuasive and a woman is pushy. A man is dedicated and a woman is selfish. That's the feeling I get when I hear these words like ruthless being referred to any woman leader, and I think we should rise above this. But as it relates to these papers specifically, this is so old news, and if I was a Republican, I'd be really concerned about where the substance is that the conservative media is looking to go to. If this is the type of attack that they think they can pull out, that's old news, that's already been reported, that's been available since 2010, or even before 2010. These were things that voters knew in 2008 and didn't matter to them when she came close to winning the Democratic nomination. There's just no beef here. If they got to go back all the way to the 90s, there are much better things from the 90s. Hootie and the Blowfish, Hanson.
I'm all for some Hootie and the Blowfish. Don't get me wrong. With regard to this, though, there's the new information, or new insight from Hillary Clinton on this that I think people find interesting is the conversations with her friend Diane, and we're talking about the relationships that former President Bill Clinton had with various women, specifically Monica Lewinsky, and they even outline Paula Jones. They go through quite a list of folks, but specifically with Monica Lewinsky, Hillary Clinton referred to her as a narcissistic Looney Tune. And for something like that, dealing with Monica Lewinsky, who was a young girl who was a subordinate to the president, being involved in the situation, and for Hillary Clinton to call her a narcissistic Looney Tune, I think that's troubling.
Have you read Living History, Hillary Clinton's memoir?
Parts of it, yes.
So her own book is so much more revealing and so much more substantive than the notes of a friend that, again, have been available for so long. All of this has been rehashed. She shared intimate details of, her process and how she dealt with that and her perspective firsthand in her memoir. And again, this just seems like that song that I listen to when I'm feeling sad, Desperado, seems very desperate. But we're looking at things that have already been discussed, that have already been rehashed. And I think is a sign that, again, conservatives don't have anywhere to go when it comes to substance on how they have dealt with women and these types of attacks that we're seeing through kind of the rehashing of these documents and the words that we're hearing from Senator Rand Paul in the last few weeks, trying to take us back. I would be concerned because I think most voters are looking at this and they're saying, okay, and the sky is blue. Because that's one of the revelations from this. There's a handwritten note that's not even signed by former President Bill Clinton, and the big shocking reveal is tomorrow is Thursday.
Amongst other things, meeting me down in a specific room at the White House is also part of that. But another thing that, just one more on this issue, and then I want to move to another topic. But with regard to these litany of women and the way Hillary refers to them, talking about some of them as whiny women that have been involved in inappropriate relationships with former President Clinton. And she really makes excuses for the former president, Hillary does, with regard to saying this is a product of his political adversaries, the loneliness of the presidency. She even goes on to say that it's also the result of her own failures as a wife. And in my view, when we talk about, or the Democrats talk about the war on women and women standing up for themselves and women being proud and having self-confidence, when you're the victim of a philandering husband, I think it sets the wrong message when you blame it on the job, whether it's the presidency, and then for her to blame it on her own failures as a wife, I think that sends a very disheartening message to women of this country.
Well, Alice, I don't think anyone is in any position to question the personal thoughts and process that someone goes through when they are dealing with a traumatic situation in their marriage or any serious relationship that they have. And your thoughts from one day to the next can vary. There are highs, there are lows. But again, what is so revealing from Hillary Clinton comes in her own words, in her memoir, Living Memory, or Living History. And I think if people want to know her process, her gut-wrenching process and her thoughts and how she dealt with this, they should go to her own words. But if they want to rehash the 90s, then let's go back to, like I said, Hootie and the Blowfish.
Right. Well, and as we all know, moving forward to 2016, everyone that's throwing their hat in the race, everything is fair game. Everything is open record, as we've seen, as you know, and I know with presidential campaigns that they will go back as far as they possibly can. They've gone back to high school years and for some of these folks. One last question on health care. Part of these documents, the Hillary papers, go back to something written in 1993. At a dinner party where Hillary Clinton mentioned her support at length, talking about the complexities of health care, and she thought that managed competition was a crock and that single-payer health care was necessary, maybe add to Medicare. So she's advocated single-payer health care during this time.
Well, I would just say don't believe the hype, Alice, because she didn't include single-payer health care in her own healthcare plan. And are we now being all held accountable for everything we utter at a dinner party? I was at a dinner party a couple of nights ago, and we were talking about extraterrestrial life on Earth. And I hope if I run for office, whoever was at that dinner party doesn't bring up that conversation as some kind of very serious policy issue. When Hillary Clinton had an opportunity to put a health care reform package on the table, she didn't propose it, and that's where we get the meat, the substance, the beef of what her vision and her priorities were when it came to that policy.
All right, and one last question. Jehmu Greene, former advisor for Hillary 2008. How do you see this or other conversations or private documents like this affecting if Hillary Clinton ran in 2016?
Well, I think we all know that Hillary Clinton is not just one of the most respected Americans, but she's also one of the most scrutinized and, attacked. And again, the fact that we're even rehashing this right now, she's been through this. And I think When you look at millennial voters and their increasing numbers, the entire electorate is going to be much younger than it was even in 2008 and 2012. The conversation is going to be about the economy. It's going to be about where we are in the present day. And if this type of direction is where conservatives want to take this, if this is their smoking gun, Republicans, regardless of where they are already issue-wise when it comes to their attacks on women, when it comes to not moving forward on immigration, if this is the direction they want to go to, and if Hillary Clinton runs, and I do pray every night that she doesn't run, they're in trouble, because I don't think voters are going to go down this path, and they will be punished for it.
All right. Well, time will tell. Jehmu Greene, Democratic strategist and former Hillary 2008 advisor. Jehmu, thanks so much, and you have a great day.
Thank you, Alice.
All right. Thank you. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about Medicare choices, how they could be changing in Washington. We're going to take a break. This segment of the Alice Stewart Show is brought to you by Arrow Plumbing. For all of your household or business plumbing needs, call Arrow Plumbing, 1-866-PLUMBER, or schedule an appointment online at arrowplumbing.net. We'll be back.
The Alice Stewart Show on 96.5 The Voice.